Welcome to GenZ Talks. This is your host, Ryan Solomon, the head of community and content at Entre. At Entre, we built a social network for entrepreneurs, investors, creators, and freelancers. Every week, this show is recorded live on Entre, and I get to interview the most ambitious and young entrepreneurs and investors from around the world. And if you'd like to be a part of our next episode of GenZ Talks, maybe even get to come up on stage and ask a question, make sure to head over to joinentre.com and register for GenZ Talks. Now that that's out of the way, it's time to kick things off. Let's go. Hey, Dane, how's it going, man?
Hey there. I'm great. How are you?
We're doing good. Happy you got in and everything's working well. How's your day going?
It's doing great. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Dude, absolutely. Calling in from San Fran. Happy to see you. We're probably going to people popping in and out as we're kicking things off here.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan. No, this is great. Yeah, and I already see some familiar faces in the audience. It's great.
Love that. So I'm guessing Priya, Ian. Awesome.
Yeah. And Miriam as well.
Yeah. How do you know Miriam? I think honestly, I feel like you can attest to this, that Miriam just knows everybody somehow.
I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say that's a fair assessment for sure. We did an event together a few, what was it? Maybe months ago now. That's crazy. We did an event together. Maybe it was like late last year. It's crazy to think about how time flies.
Yeah, no, honestly, I've been Miriam for a little more than a year now. She's honestly just killed it. Just knew everybody. So I'm so happy that she gave us the intro.
Yeah, this is great. I'm super excited to be here. I'm relatively new to this platform I've been on like a little podcast before, but like this kind of like live audio focused type of platform is relatively new. So this is cool to see the folks are around and listening. This is great. In terms of myself, I am kind of a multi-time founder. So started a couple companies in the past, all of which have kind of really been centered around this sort of core similarity or commonality among all of them. That is trying to make the world a better place in some way, shape or form. And so the last company that I started was an online peer-to-peer rental marketplace business. I think like Airbnb, but for, surfboards, kayaks, snowboards, etc. And built that business really because we thought that renting, in contrast to consumption, was a greater benefit for the environment, especially with high plastic items like kayaks, surfboards. So that's the reason that we started the company. Initially, as we scaled, it just became incredibly complicated and expensive to maintain that sustainability ethos and rigor. And we tried everything, try to buy offsets, try to hire consultants. Everything was very complicated, very expensive. So ultimately, it was something that we kind of really lived the problem ourselves. And ultimately, we sold the company to a larger rental marketplace business, and then came back together, about 2.5 years later to start Ecocart. But it was always just simply because the idea that this needed to exist in the world always sort of like stuck in the back of my mind. And so that's, the kind of the reason why we ultimately started Ecocart about 2.5 years ago. And what Ecocart is, to kind of jump into, the what of what we're doing after kind of giving a little bit of the why. Ecocart is a technology to calculate and offset the carbon footprint of e-commerce. And so what we're doing is we're partnering with e-commerce brands to calculate the carbon footprint of each of their orders, translate that to a dollar amount, and then ultimately offset that. Whether that's allowing the consumer at checkout to pay a few extra cents to offset their order, or it's the brand is actually funding the offsets. Either way, we are powering an eco-friendly shopping experience for consumers. And what we do in terms of what does offsetting mean in this case, what we do with that dollar amount, again, it's calculated based off of the specific carbon footprint of each order by looking at variables like shipping distance, package weight, product type, etc. Once that happens, we're able to translate that to a dollar amount. And with that, we're then funding certified carbon offset projects like planting trees, building wind farms, sustainable agriculture, methane capture, etc. So that's ultimately what we're doing, is taking those funds, creating a positive out in the world to basically balance out or net out the carbon footprint of that particular world. And so that's kind of what our solution is. We've been around for about 2.5 years now. We have some amazing brands that we're partnered with, over 1,500 brands on the B2B side. We also have a consumer element as well, which is a browser extension that any consumer can install directly into their browser that calculates the carbon footprint of your orders, and then allows the offsetting of that at our partner websites. And we have over 10,000 brand partners that we partner with on the consumer side. So if you're a consumer on this call, in theory, you can go over to our website, ecocart.io, install our browser extension, probably 2 clicks, totally free. And you can be able to shop, carbon neutral at some of, your favorite brands that we're partnered with. So that's kind of the solution on the B2B side, or rather, sorry, on the consumer side. On the B2B side, we're partnering with 1,500 brands that our API is directly integrated into. And so there we have, you'd see our eco-friendly option at checkout as you're going through purchasing, no matter what browser you're on or what device you're on. And so that's kind of the way that we partner there. We have 1,500 brands, including brands like APL and Adams and Bar Fox and Save Big Foods, June Shine and many more that we're excited to be partnered with. So that's a little bit about the solution and myself. That's pretty much everything.
Wow. Honestly, I love the product, so I got to check it out a little bit beforehand, and actually to show you guys, I'll give you guys like a little, for anyone who is watching on web, ecocart.io right here. And also whenever you come up, I have a million from extensions as you can see. I think what's really cool is right here, you already have the numbers for how much is being offset from purchasing through these brands. So like Van Fossier, you're on your way to carbon neutral order, nothing more, something it's that simple. And boom. So this product right here, could you give me a little explanation on why it's this product? So this product is specifically carbon neutral on their page?
No. So it's anytime you shop on their site, that's just basically their home carousel with that they're showing.
I see. So whenever you shop on their site, it goes so that I see now.
Yep. So anytime you shop at Lost Say, for example, you have Ecocart activated, then what we're doing is we're actually receiving an affiliate commission from that brand. And with that, we're funding the certified carbon offset projects, like I mentioned. And that's how we make the order carbon neutral.
I see how that works. That is super cool. And do you also support like specific, because in my head, I thought some of these brands were already carbon neutral too.
Yeah, some are. Exactly. There are some that we partner with directly that are both on our B2B side as well as our consumer side. So that is the case. We are powering the offsetting of some of those brands at the brand level. And then in this case, with this consumer product, we're powering that at the consumer level.
Absolutely incredible. Super, super cool. And honestly, so the thing that I love is products that are just so simple, but it's kind of like a why not? And I think that's like that you really hit here, especially with Gen Z being so focused on sustainability. And I think this hits up for a lot of people. And you said this has been built for 2 years now?
Yeah, the company's been around for about 2.5 years. We've only been launched in terms of our products for right around a year now. And in that year, again, have had some big, really great response to both products on the B2B side as well as the consumer side. So it's been great to kind of see the response in the world for our solution.
That is a super, super cool solution. Do you have a stat? I'm just curious. So it's totally cool if you don't. Do you have a stat on how many pounds of carbon emission you've been able to save or anything that's along that lines?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. So I think the latest number is right around 25 million pounds of CO2 we've offset, which is the equivalent of right under 1 million trees. If not, we probably crossed the 1 million tree mark already.
That is incredible. That is such a cool, well, honestly, that's probably the biggest flex I've heard on Entre Room. I'm not sure if anyone else has topped it yet. I think saying you've offset 1 million trees worth of carbon is quite a flex.
That's awesome, man. I like that one. We are super excited to have that, to have that, to be able to make that impact. Like that's the whole goal. Like that's what that's why I get up every morning and work for all the hours of the day that I do, because it's simply for that reason. And it feels good. It does. It feels great.
And whenever it comes down to like kind of your founding story of putting together Ecocart, what was that like? And I'm not sure if you're technical or not, yourself, or have you built out a team?
Yeah, great question. So my co-founder and I are both actually not super technical. We have kind of learned enough and to be able to ask the right questions to be dangerous. But other than that, not technical. I can't sit down and I can't write code. So have had to leverage the team to be able to help out with that. So we initially kind of leverage outsourced teams and actually creates product. But initially, over time, we've transitioned that internally. But that's how we, got it spun up initially, and now, we're a team of 12, soon to be 14 or 15 over the next month or two here. That now we have an internal engineering team that we're excited about having. So that's what the kind of how we got started is just be able to you try to kind of be as scrappy as possible to get the solution built, because we knew we had an idea, we had something that was there. We needed to just see it through, create an MVP, get some users on board, and then ultimately start to see some revenue come in, growth, and then ultimately raise the seed round of capital earlier this year. Is a $3 million seed round led by some amazing or involved, led by an amazing VC called Base 10. And got some amazing other folks involved throughout the industry, whether they're in e-commerce or in other industries. So that's a little bit about the history of the company and how we got started.
That is pretty impressive. I love that. Um, Really, really cool. And I also wanted to ask kind of what are some other startups in your space that also excite you? Because I feel like especially when it comes to sustainability, I mean, obviously you want market share on certain things, but like I think there's a lot more respect and support. Yeah, I mean, so are there other awesome startups in the space, not necessarily directly related, but so sustainable startups that make you excited? Because I think one that makes me excited is they were called Zero Mass Water, and then they rebranded to something else, and I can't remember in the life of me what it is. But I'll let you answer your question. Answer the question first.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. There are so many companies out there in and around our space that are, do great things. Uh, and, approaching things from sort of like a potentially different angle, which is amazing. There's a company that I was recently connected to called Carbon Neutral Club. And I think that they're based uh, in Canada, and they're just they have basically a club where you can create as a consumer and offset um your life or some portion of it, and then and you get sort of like discounts and other like great benefits to be able to kind of shop at eco-friendly companies. So it's kind of this like exclusive club, so to speak, that in order to kind of like get into the club, you have to be able to you have to be offsetting your life or some portion of it. And it's a really interesting model. So as a lot of, and then, in addition to that, there's just like so many brands that we partner with that are offsetting their entire carbon footprint. One which is Atoms, which is an amazing company, shoe company based in New York that is actually offsetting. They ship their orders entirely carbon neutral, and that's something that they put the bill for themselves. Uh, and it's just an amazing company with some amazing folks that are behind the business and do so much to actually be cognizant and be conscious of the carbon footprint of manufacturing their products, and then also be able to take it a step further to understand their carbon footprint in a deeper way, so they can actually offset that the unavoidable carbon footprint and mitigate the unavoidable carbon footprint of getting their packages to their customers' doorstep. So that's another one that I like to kind of call out here, because I think it's really helpful, and definitely some brands that we like really, really look up to in that space that we're directly partnered with or not.
I love that. And I love seeing companies that are doing that because, it's hurting their bottom dollar, but they're doing it because they care. It means a lot, especially to just generally speaking, younger generations, or at least even environmentally conscious ones. And the more companies like, I mean, you get a good company that's not even like producing a whole ton of carbon, but even them doing it and putting their foot down and then tons more following is absolutely huge. And the company, I remember when it was called, as we were talking, um, that I had mentioned was called Zero Mass Water, now called Source. Uh, Hence, it's basically like water solar panels on top of a roof that you put on your roof, and they extract water from the air and create clean drinking water. It sounds like magic. It's probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. And they've been putting these in a lot of like developing countries. So like one of the stories the CEO had talked about was like, yeah, there was a lot of like small towns in I think it's East Africa where women had to walk miles just to get clean drinking water, and now they don't have to. It's like that's not like $1 billion exit, but that's going to be found. And I thought it was such a cool concept, and another cool company. Um, Honestly, would be perfect with your Chrome extension. Just a cool company that I think you should look into. Terra. Um, they use what is it? Recycled milk. They recycle spoiled milk. So they take spoiled milk, they put it in a bioreactor to create what is it? Like cloth. And then repurpose that into making clothing, bags, and other things. That's the science behind it is absolute magic to me. Being someone who's not in STEM, but I think it's definitely a cool company to look at. It's actually probably that won one of our earlier pitch competitions.
That's fantastic. I love that. It's a really great, innovative approach. I will definitely take a look and reach out. I think that's a great recommendation. So thank you for that, Ryan.
Absolutely. And I kind of wanted to ask, so like, whenever you touched on your founding story a little earlier, um, if you were to give a piece of advice to someone who's making a product, we'll keep it within your niche of like sustainability tech. Um, if someone that's going, if someone, first time founder comes up to you and says, Dane, I'm trying to build this thing, like what is kind of like maybe your biggest mistakes to me previously, or things that you wish you would have known going into building this? I know you'd built other products before and you kind of have experience across the board. So like what kind of advice would you give to someone who's just getting started in building sustainable tech products?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great question. Um, I don't know if my advice would be much different for like sustainable tech products than it would be for just your standard, regular general tech product. I have to put a little more thought to that, but as a general rule of thumb, I'd say it's just so important. Like, I think for a lot of folks, obviously like the stage is much different for right. So for me personally, when I was thinking about my entrepreneurial journey, getting started was the hardest thing to do. And I think that there's like more so than it is a mental block, then that's probably like, fully contrived in my own mind. And I'm sure other folks feel similar that that it's just something that, is it's just really hard to take that first step. For a lot of reasons, but the first step is the most important, the most important step, and just kind of getting started, and then in the most low tech MVP way possible, or not necessarily low tech, but like low, um, low lift way possible to kind of just get started and get like a signal on whether or not this is the right idea, the right move, the right market, with the right time, whenever that may be. And so like, there's tons of ways to just get this information, get this signal in some low lift way. And that's really what I would recommend is like understanding if the market's there. And once you get comfortable with that, then it really becomes a lot easier, right? Like taking that step, the first step is block, kind of like that mental block. And once you get comfortable with the fact that this is, that this solution is there, or the market is there, or timing is right, or whatever it may be, um, it just becomes so much easier. And so doing that like prep work in advance can actually just do wonders to getting to the right, to getting to like break through that mental block.
I could imagine. I know a lot of people like could attest to that. Um, in getting through that, you also kind of touched on like just getting it, like jumping after and just going. Um, I think one thing that's interesting now, especially because we actually posted a no code summit um, a few weeks ago down in Austin, Texas. And from that, and just having a lot of friends that are in the no code space who get full products on no code, I think it's so much easier now more than ever to start building out products or at least minimal viable product. Just using no code tools like a Dallo, Bubble, Glide, Airtable, all these different tools or at your fingertips. You just have to take like a little bit of a learning curve just to get your foot in the door to start building out a product.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are tons of tools out there that make this, that have limited or lowered the barrier to entry for entrepreneurship as a whole. And I think no code is a perfect example of that. So yeah, could not agree more.
And another thing I wanted to ask about, like kind of lowering barrier to entry, more specifically to sustainability. Did you take any grants or look into grants? One thing I will plug, I believe, I want to double check that we have a deal with them. Is opengrants.io. It's basically a grant database where you can find grants for whatever you're building. It's really geared for founders, startups, or people who are building businesses. I'm not sure if you had taken any grant money along the way for Ecocart, or if you thought about it.
We personally did not take any grant money. I don't think that uh, we, and to be honest with you, I don't think that we tried because I don't think that we're ignorant to the fact that those existed. Um, or that, there were ones like specific grant programs that we could apply to that would fit our specific mold, whether, considering the fact that we were actually no longer students at the time. Just again, lack of knowledge of these existing. So, I wish we would have, I mean, that's a fantastic idea. Like that's probably the scrappiest thing you could possibly do to get started. Is fund the company off of grant money. I have a ton of respect for anyone who goes that route. So absolutely, I would recommend that. I just personally did not have the intelligence to go out and search those.
You're good. But yeah, definitely a really cool opportunity. The one thing I do talk whenever I talk to founders is, be as scrappy as possible. And if you don't like, if you can be profitable without raising money, that's even better. And also I do want to say for anyone who's not answered people questions for Dane or myself, and if you want to come up and join the discussion, don't hesitate to hit the little hand raise button down at the bottom, and we'll bring you up on stage, and you're welcome to join the, the discussion here. Um, but to continue, we've covered a lot. So we covered grants, we covered kind of found story, and kind of more towards the future. Where does Ecocart go for you? What in the next 12 months, 2 years, 5 years? What does that look like for you guys? And yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So we're right now we're just in growth mode. We just raised a seed round a few months back, and now we're starting to get all of our ducks in a row with processes, with our product, with our platform, with our processes more than anything. Um, to kind of hit the afterburners a little bit and put some fuel to the fire with growth. So that's the sort of the phase that we're in today. Now, on like a really macro level, we are seeing a lot of demand for this solution, both on the consumer as well as the merchant side. And that's a fantastic thing. And it's something that, when I kind of look at the next 2 to 5 years, it's really important that we, kind of build a strong foundation under us now to make sure that we are well able to capitalize on this opportunity that exists in the marketplace for the years to come. And so that's one of my main focuses today is making sure that we're well positioned to do that. And so building again like the right foundation, the right processes to build a strong foundation. So that's what I see is kind of the future, at least in the short to medium term. And then, in the long term, we're really excited about offsetting and making consumer activity more eco-friendly as a whole. And so e-commerce again is kind of our bread and butter use case, but there's so many other opportunities or verticals or use cases outside of that we're entering into partnership with today, have the opportunity or potential to do so in the future. And so when we think about the long term, vision of the companies, it really is to make consumer activity more eco-friendly in some way, shape, or form, and do so in a very easy, frictionless, potentially even free way. And so that's really what we see as kind of the long term vision, or the sort of you know end goal for us all, and we work towards this on a day to day basis.
And frictionless is such an important word. Like I think it's an underused word. And so I believe people need to think about that, especially when it comes to like even just onboarding flows, when it comes to product design, as a whole. It's so important. And I kind of jump a little bit into now they asked you about the future, the super near term, you're saying you're kind of heavy on growth and user acquisition. What is that looking like for you for your goals for the next 6 months or months? And how do you intend on doing that? One of my favorite things I'd love to suggest, if you're not already on it, is TikTok. I know everyone that we're here knows me loves TikTok. But I'm not sure if it's in your plate or not, or what do you have cooking up?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're always trying out different channels, right? So TikTok's one of them. And there's a lot of things that we're excited about. We actually just hired a head of marketing, which will oversee a lot of this. A lot of these just like growth channels for us, and so really just like managing the growth across different channels, and even including product and things like this. So we're excited about that. That individual joining us, and that's going to bring a lot of positive to the company over the next few months. And while we're having these larger conversations with larger merchants, with big retailers, and big like potential partners, whether it's like a platform, or it's a or if it's a like another like consumer app, for example. So there's a lot of different uh, things that are sort of on the horizon when it comes down to immediate term growth that we're really excited about testing, and all the while continue to grow out our consumer user base, which is always something that we have, and consumers really tend to find us quite organically, as well as through some small like paid marketing channels. But really is organic, and it kind of just is a testament to the fact that consumers and businesses both alike are actually really hungry for this type of solution. And we're excited about sort of being in the position that we are to be able to offer that at when consumers and businesses are actually searching for it.
I got you. I got you. No, that makes a lot of sense. And the reason why I brought up TikTok specifically, especially for what you're doing, is I've seen a handful of really, really successful product launches strictly on TikTok. Uh, for example, I have two examples in mind, actually three that come to mind. One of which is a friend of mine who his like third video he posted, he made a product that you upload your resume and it gets you AI feedback on whether it would get through FANG level talent or FANG level recruiting software. So they use AI to see if your resume would fit, and then it goes on to the next level, the next level. He made a program that checks it for you so you can fix it before applying. That got like 2 million views off of just that one video that he made. And then another thing is like follow somebody who I can't remember what it's called. He made a Chrome extension that like whenever you're on Amazon, it will compare prices for other products, right? And tell you it's 30% off on Best Buy, kind of something similar to Honey. But he just will find like, oh, you know what? You want the new AirPods Pros? Well, this is how to save $20. Boom. And of course, some of these videos will just hit and go viral.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a really good point. In that there's so much you know opportunity out there to fulfill a need, right? And that's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely love TikTok. It's been a great great avenue for us for just getting organic reach and hitting a lot of incredible people. Maybe there's even some people in the audience who came from TikTok, believe it or not. Actually, one of the people in our team was in one of our lives. So I'm very bullish on the space as a whole. And then kind of to jump more into sustainability as a whole, are there other projects? I know you kind of touched on a couple companies, but I'm trying to find a way to articulate this. What sort of don't exist yet that need to? Which sounds kind of ridiculous, and you might not have a straightforward answer for that. But I look at sustainability. I think there's a lot of things happening in, automation, energy, you name it, or there's a really specific industry as a whole, more so than just a specific company that excites you and just gets you excited as a whole.
Yeah, it's a really good question. There's a lot of, there's a ton of opportunity out there. In terms of like industry, obviously, like I love our industry, which is, the sustainability space, which is, obviously something that is a lot of folks are becoming really interested in now, which is amazing. It's a great time to be in this space. So, I mean, I'd say that, just considering the fact that I'm there. But, other than that, there's, I mean, obviously like, there's a lot of, I mean, just kind of being in like, I don't know, the first that pops to mind is like the crypto NFT space. It's really interesting. There's a lot of work that's being done there. That's, I think, going to be pretty game changing and fundamental to like um, how we, how we like just transact. And then also what like how, really like thinking about what is valuable, like what is true value in the future, like, and how that's going to like totally be shifted on its head. Like our preconceived notions of what like an asset is crazy to think about. So I am, bullish on those industries, on those verticals, in those spaces. And there's just, I don't know, there's just so much, there's so much out there to kind of, make life for people better in some way, shape or form. And, whether it's easier or whether it's like, less expensive or whatever that may be, there's just, there's so many things out there that are exciting when it comes down to, making life better in some way, shape or form. And that's kind of like how we got started and why I'm, particularly excited about what we're doing on a day-to-day basis and kind of how I've thought about all of the companies that I've started or all of the like endeavors that I've journeyed into is all kind of like, how can I leverage my own impact as a human being, as an individual to make an impact in the world and make people's lives better in some way, shape or form, both now and far into the future.
Those will rock answer. Um, there's a lot of really, really cool spaces within sustainability tech that get me excited. Um, and kind of like when we were talking a little bit further about your partners, and there's look, I've pulled out your partner list as we were talking. Where did we go? Two times, which over 1,000 plus brands. I'm seeing Twix, I'm seeing No, I'm seeing Travis Kelly. Uh, there's a ton. There's so many here on this list. Um, I kind of want to ask what that process was like. I think there's a lot of value uh, getting strategic partnerships on board because not only does it help your customer, you know, because they obviously want to, and help it's a win-win for everybody. Help you because you're kind of bringing both of those together. You're bringing together the customer that wants to shop through you, and then also the incredible brands together. So what was that process like? Really securing strong partnerships and kind of automating that flow because I think it's something really, really important and a really, really powerful thing to do, especially within system. Oh, looks like, oh, sorry, Dane. I was on another tag. I didn't see you. I didn't see you jumped off.
Man, I don't know when I pressed. That's my fault. I somehow left the stage. My bad. Thanks for thanks for finding me there. Sorry. So yeah, a little bit distracted. Can you repeat that question one more time?
Yeah, so I was looking at your site. It looks like you have over 1,000 plus partners, which is incredible. And I kind of want to pick your brain on what that process is like because you said you'd only started the company 2 years ago and now have over 1,000 plus partners. That's incredibly impressive. So I'm kind of curious on what your trick to that was.
Yeah.
I mean, you got 100. We're working on 1,000, but 1,000 is really really impressive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, yeah, appreciate that. So yeah, our partners, you know, we kind of have a few different like routes or like acquisition channels. Um, one of which a big one for us, probably the biggest, is really just organic. So a lot of brands come to us, and because they see that our solution out in the wild, and they're thinking this is a novel solution. This is something that we want to incorporate to our customer experience and to our brand, into the core fabric of our story and company and brand. And so that's a lot of what we see is organic traffic, and we've done a lot to kind of invest in fundamentals like SEO and like uh backlinks and tons of things like this that really get us to a good spot when it comes down to organic traffic. So that's a big one for us. Um, Others are speaking opportunities just like this one. So definitely, very thankful to be here. Other than that, we have, some folks that are on our sales team that kind of go out and try to secure us partnerships in some way, shape, or form, and just trying to get the word out, right? So, telling folks, kind of explaining the value of our solution and our suite of solutions to merchants and potential partners. That's a big one for us as well. Um, and then also just marketing, right? There's LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and other platforms that we've tested and tried and have saw some success with in some cases to get some um, scalable acquisition through marketing channels. That's another one for us. So all of those together have kind of resulted in us being able to secure right around 1,500 merchants in just about a year-ish or so. And so that's kind of what we've been able to do. And all that really is fueled again because I think, more than anything, there's just a demand for the solution. There's people, both consumers and merchants, as well as partners, the consumers and companies, I guess broadly, are incredibly interested in this solution. And, we have data and stats to back it up, right? Like 28% of all consumers at checkout actually check this box to add an additional a few cents to their order to make their order carbon neutral whenever they're shopping at one of our brand partners, where at the checkout flow, you can add a few extra cents to make your order carbon neutral. It's 28%. It's a pretty massive number when you're considering, just how many people convert and a purchase generally when they're shopping online. So that's a great pure statistic that shows that consumers are really interested in mitigating their own environmental impact in however they can, even if it means paying more. So that's exciting to us, and probably a big contributor as to why so many we've been able to secure so many brands on board.
That is a wild statistic. 28%. That is honestly much higher than I would have expected, to be honest, because I feel that people like, I'm very optimistic on the world, but I also feel that people can be very stingy with money. But just like that round up 20%. And I think that number is only going to go up over time, especially with Ecocart and other just people becoming much more sustainably focused, especially when it comes to shopping. I'm seeing even more brands becoming entirely carbon neutral themselves. So just seeing that gives me 20 cents just giving for whenever you're shopping gets me a little excited, and seeing how things are going. I also do want to remind anyone in the audience, if you do want to come up and hang out with me and Dane for the last 15 minutes or so, you can hit the little raise hand button. A few questions for him, his story with Ecocart, bringing money, being sustainability. If you have a comment to add, don't hesitate to hit the raise hand button and we can bring you up on stage. Would love to have you up here. I see some familiar faces popping now, which is great. So we've covered a lot. Let's see if we got a question from Angel. We'll bring her up. Angel, how's it going? Please correct me if I said your name wrong.
No, that's all right. It's Anshul. But no, thank you. I just joined a little bit late to the call, so the question that I have is possibly covered. But yeah, just an introduction to myself. I am a professional from the consulting background, have worked with startups as well, more recently in the tech space. I'm looking towards a shift right now, working and networking on it, to the climate space. So sustainability, climate change, definitely something that I'm looking to go into. My question is a little bit more detailed in terms of, how you're calculating or how you work with organizations to help them calculate their carbon footprint. You're estimating um, the carbon offset that each transaction would look like. So how do these organizations usually have that calculated themselves, or are you part of that process to try to help them determine their carbon footprint to pass it on to the consumer?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And thanks so much for asking it. I'm glad to have you all up here on the stage. This is great. Yeah. So to answer your question directly, there's a broad range of partnerships that we have. Um, some brands come to us already having calculated their own carbon footprint, and we leverage that information. Others haven't done any information or haven't done any legwork there in terms of calculating their carbon footprint. With that, we're able to help them, and we have a process where we're doing a carbon emissions audit for our brands to actually calculate their specific carbon footprint in a pretty in-depth way. And that's what some of our brands choose to partnership or to partner with us by doing. And then there's also another subset of brands that come to us and just want to leverage our database or um, our prior legwork in terms of like our research to use general estimates of their carbon footprint based off of the specific product that they're using or that they're selling, for example, or just the general like shipping estimates that we have on board today. So what we've done really is kind of like put in all the legwork to actually devise this algorithm and with a ton of different like inputs to be able to calculate this carbon footprint from both shipping and manufacturing. The manufacturing side is something that is obviously much more nuanced and something where when it comes down to a partnership with a brand that wants to do an emissions audit, that's where that value is really shown. And so that's where that kind of comes into play there. So we're absolutely partnering with our brands in a pretty in-depth way in some cases to calculate their carbon footprint. And then, and if not, then we're using their own data or using our general kind of like estimates of what the carbon footprint is for manufacturing a t-shirt, for example, or a shirt or sheets or whatever that product type is.
Right, that makes sense. No, thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you're doing with Ecocart. I mean, I think that this is definitely a brilliant way of getting a lot more people involved in their everyday actions to getting involved on the climate kind of space, and working towards the transition. I know, of course, the entire idea that the individual should have to calculate their carbon footprint and be mindful of the kind of purchases they're making, et cetera, is in itself I guess, a bit of it's. I mean, it's something that was devised by like BP to take more focus off of the emissions that the fossil fuel industry was putting out. But now that we're definitely looking towards a transition towards clean energy, just like having more people involved in making these donations to go towards um, that transition, I think is definitely very important because we do have their. I mean, I was looking on your website. It says 92% of people, of customers, are um, willing to pay a little bit extra to give towards sustainability, towards climate change. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're starting to see a lot more uh demand for the solution, right? And like consumers that are willing to go above and beyond and go out of their own way, even again, pay more to mitigate their own environmental impact. And so that's really, uh, it's invigorating, it's energizing, and it kind of like makes everything what we do so fulfilling because it's a new solution. Consumers and brands both alike are very much interested. So that's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. It's something that we are tracking and something that we are really excited about, sort of like being a part of.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, thank you for answering that, Dane. And I'll, if you don't mind, I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn to connect more and get to learn more about, your journey here.
That'd be awesome. Looking forward to it.
Or, I'm sorry, on Entre.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah, sound good. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a really good question too, by the way. Especially because I didn't really think about it like that, where I couldn't even spitball a number of what my carbon emissions are just as an individual. And I think what this is going to do is kind of like help people realize that. Like whenever I click the Chrome extension right now, I can kind of just see how much you're able to offset from buying from different products. And just seeing these numbers just gives me a better estimate of like what I'm actually doing as a consumer, just simple things, leaving lights on or buying stuff that I don't need or clothing or all this other stuff. So this is really, really cool, but you don't really realize it as just a typical consumer unless it's like really presented to you well.
Exactly. And consumer education is one of the biggest challenges as well as opportunities that we as a platform face when we're trying to develop product. Actually, the big top of mind element for us is like, how are we educating the consumer in the right way when we're going through and we're building product. And so, yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's crucially important and something that we think a lot about. So yeah, again, back to kind of like, it's sort of like the frictionless element of it, right? It's like, how do we show the consumer in the right way without too much information and without bogging the consumer down with information and or how do we and also how do we strike the right like psychological tone or like approach of how we're actually doing this. And so there's a lot of like nuances to go into it, but yeah, you nailed the head.
Mm-hmm. Then so how do you go about doing, like, is there, for consumer education, was that we're going to be putting into your marketing material when we were talking about your marketing goal earlier? And I'm like, because I almost see that as being like a golden opportunity if you haven't already with like Facebook ads or just paid ads as a whole. They talk a lot about SEO being a great channel for you guys. Um, I don't know what the numbers would be, but like like I could always see an ad in my head being like, did you know that your typical shopping throughout the year accumulates to 500,000 pounds of CO2? That could be ridiculous number. I couldn't spot on. You probably know better than I do. But I wish see that as like a great campaign, because like it's something I would have not have no, I would not have known until I see those lines.
100%, 100%. Really, yeah, really great point. And yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think I'll have to share that idea with our marketing team. I don't know if we've done that one before, but it's a great idea. I think, that like, kind of showing the cure or again, educating the consumer on what their carbon footprint is, plus showing like, social proof into like understanding so the consumer can understand, what percentage of other consumers are actually offsetting their carbon footprint is a really interesting way of kind of approaching this as well. So yeah, I appreciate the idea. That's helpful. I'll make a note of that for sure.
Absolutely. And if you need any feedback from anyone else, don't hesitate to share in a post. Like I'm sure people in the community have probably got better working ideas than I do. Than some really cool marketers just on in the community as a whole. Um, but yeah, trying to think of any other questions. We've covered a good bit. Thanks for popping up, Achel. And Matthew, Jack, anyone else in the audience have anything? I think we're good for right now. Miriam's got something. Miriam, welcome. Thanks for helping put this together.
Thank you for hosting it, Ryan and Dane, for taking the time. It's great to see you again. Inspiring conversation tonight, per usual from you. Yeah, just kind of wanting to at first just express gratitude, like Angel has, for you using your gifts and talents to put towards like the climate crisis and educating consumers and making it just a priority for yourself? Because I'm sure you could build so many things. There's all of these different things that we can do with technology. So it's kind of a contribution to us all, the work that you're up to. I would love to hear a little bit more about partnerships because it just seems like every now and again I'm seeing Ecocart just pop up when I'm online, especially I've started to use Chrome more. So how are you going about forming those partnerships and like what is your thought process with what partners you have on your like wish list or people reaching out to you to get Ecocart added? Um, what are those, even how do you phrase those conversations when you pop into someone's DMs or how are you getting in touch with the people? I'd love to hear more about how you go about partnerships.
Absolutely. And no, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for that kind of compliment. That was probably one of the best compliments I've received. So I really appreciate that. That means a lot, Mary. So thank you. And thank you for and enabling this to happen by making the introduction here. This is fantastic. So, yeah, I want to definitely express gratitude right back to you. Um, in terms of, yeah, to answer your question directly, in terms of like the partnerships that we can go after, there, it's definitely, multifaceted, um, just different kind of ways of going about that, considering that there are two different forms of how that actually ends up happening. And so, for us, on the consumer side, we're going after brands that already have, kind of like whether it's some sort of an affiliate partnership or an affiliate program that already exists. They're tapping into that. That's how we're able to have, so many different types of partnerships across the board. And that is, a big blessing for us because we're able to show value to them, to these brands, and up to the point where they actually are willing to pay us a commission every time that we help a consumer convert on a sale. And so that's the kind of the nature of the partnership there on that side. We do have brands that actually reach out to us or we reach out to them asking if they want to engage their community in a deeper way. And that, that type of approach has proven to be really effective for us is, showing the consumer or rather showing the brand that their consumers are more willing to continue on and make a purchase if they know that they're with them, if they know that their environmental impact is going to be mitigated. And so that is a big one for us to kind of show the brand versus just telling them that we help. And so that goes for our B2B partnerships on the consumer side, as well as our partnerships on the like the actual just B2B side itself, where it's a more involved tech partnership where we're integrating our API into their tech stack. That one is more obviously involved and requires a longer term, deeper sales cycle and sales process. And there, for that, we have to, we do a lot in terms of like providing content to them to show the brand that we help with, both conversion rates and, showing that, the brand can be really boosted and bolstered by offering this option to customers that check out or even, taking it a step further to pay for the offsets on behalf of the customers, all of which together really result in some great like marketing arsenal and collateral and being able to kind of show customers that you are a carbon neutral company or at least are taking strides in that direction is incredibly helpful for retaining customers over the long term and making sure that they're loyal customers. So that's one of the biggest, things that we try to focus on is showcasing to the brands that Ecocart does help and kind of proving to them through case studies, et cetera, that is the case.
Mm, cool strategy with targeting the ones that already have partnerships in place. And yeah, I can imagine just it's kind of like when I was doing a small business app, it was so hard to hit the streets and talk to people like one on one. These small business owners were just so busy. And I can imagine just reaching out to these vendors and getting them onboarded must be a whole thing. So just we're out here supporting you, rooting for this whole eco cart. So thank you.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, Miriam. Means a lot. Really does.
Well, we're coming up here on the hour. So to that point, if you don't already have Ecocart Family Friend extension, please make sure to. I'm definitely going to start using it. It's pretty slick. Like I'm super excited. Like I also just love, like, even if it's not directly related to sustainability, I just love testing out new tech products. Hence why I have like 50 different chrome extensions. So I'm super excited for this, and I can definitely give any feedback that I can, if it helps with like product or bugs or anything at all, that would help support you guys on the tech side of things. And, or if you want to ever chat about marketing, TikTok content, things along those lines, it's kind of my bread and butter, that and just like community as a whole. So I'm happy to support anyone in the entrepreneur community any way I can. Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate that as well. I'll be taking you up on that for sure.
No, and seriously, I also, to anyone who's still listening, like I literally have my calendar link in my bio for anyone in the entrepreneur community who wants to schedule a call. It's definitely not sustainable for the long term, but we're definitely going to keep it there as we're growing. So, but just fun. So if you ever do want to schedule a call, that's the best way to schedule a call with me, is right on my calendar. You're shooting me a message here at Sunday time. And Dane, do you have any wise words of wisdom, or any closing statements, or any call to actions as well for anyone who's listening?
Yeah. Yeah. No, appreciate that. I mean, really just appreciate everyone's time more than anything. And you taking a moment to listen. I'd say, I guess just in terms of, call to actions or asks, if there is one, would be, if there are any brands that, that would be, could potentially be interested in the solution, whether it's e-commerce brands or physical retail or whatever that may be, anyone that sells really a physical product, would be, I would absolutely love an introduction or even just a mention directly to them about Ecocart and our solution. My email address, if it's helpful, is Dane, is just my first name, Dane, Dane at ecocart.io. And I'm sure we can, maybe I can put that in my bio as well, for anyone to go ahead and reach out or make an introduction, if that would be, if you think that would be helpful, or you can think of one of me off the top of your head. So that would be super helpful. Other than that, just good luck in everyone's journey. If I can ever be helpful in anyone's entrepreneurial journey in any way, shape, or form, I'm always here. So again, my email address is Dane, Dane at ecocart.io. Happy to just be helpful, be a sounding board. So find me here on Entre, find me on my email address, or LinkedIn or Twitter or anywhere.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dane. We're going to be cautious of your time. As a founder, you probably like 50 million other things to tend to as well. So everyone give a little round of applause for me and Dane. Check out Ecocart. And if you haven't already introduced yourself to the community, or you have a question, make sure to share the feed, and I'll be right there to help you guys along the way. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with myself and Dane for the past hour. And yeah, I'm going to close out the room. Make sure to check out our upcoming events for this week and next week. And if you ever look at an event and there's not speakers still, and you're like, oh, I know someone who's good at crypto, or I know someone who's good for this, let me know. Or if we're actually going to be upgrading people's profiles so they can start hosting their own rooms. So if you do want to start hosting your own rooms on Entre, whether it's around sustainability or tech or real estate or you name it, and you want to start building your own community here, just shoot me a message. I'll shoot you over a quick little form, and you just fill out the form, and then I can start upgrading some people here as we start rolling out, getting prepared for our public launch of V2. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of GenZ Talks. Make sure to connect with me and thousands of other entrepreneurs, investors, and creators over at joinentre.com. Or you can download our mobile app for both iOS and Android. Also, don't forget to follow us on social at joinentre.